Joining me is the country's top foreign affairs writer, Greg Sheridan, the Australian newspaper. Greg, great piece by you today, by the way, on this very issue. These four guys in private say, oh, China is aggressively testing us. Publicly, didn't mention the word China. What does that tell you?
Well, Andrew, it's great to be with you. You can't have faith that the Quad will be strong enough to constrain China's behaviour if it's not strong enough to mention China in public. Now, Japan and India, for all their limitations, are making serious efforts to modernise and expand their armed forces. The United States has the greatest armed forces in the world, but under Biden is doing nothing to expand them. And Biden has gone into one of his dithering episodes of renewed diplomacy with the Chinese leadership. And this happens very often under Democrat presidents. Indeed, this is the State Department's default position all the time. Australia is the weakest of all because we are degrading our own defence capability, and we won't mention China under any circumstances. You know, recently when the Chinese rammed the Philippines ship in the South China Sea, Anthony Albanese made a statement saying we wanted there to be law and order and good process at sea, and didn't mention China. So as a group, the Quad won't mention China, and individually, most of them won't mention China. And most of them, except for Japan and India, are not making military, investments, which they need to do to cope with the Chinese military.
I tell you, meanwhile, you've got two hot wars going on thanks to China's allies, Iran and Russia. And in both cases, democracy's under attack, and the US saying to both of them, don't go in too hard in this war, don't fight too hard. One is, of course, Russia invading Ukraine being told, you can't fire our missiles into Russia, and Iran funding a war on Israel by terrorist armies, Hamas in Gaza and Hezbollah to the north in Lebanon. Now, Israel last week killed and injured a lot of Hezbollah officials by booby-trapping their pages and walkie-talkies, then wiped out the leadership of Hezbollah's top military unit with a precision bomb. Hezbollah has now hit back with 150 missiles that reached as far as Haifa. Once again, Australia and the US are telling Israel, don't escalate. What's going on here, Greg? And is the region headed to an all-out war?
Very hard to answer, really, Andrew. So, as you pointed out in the Herald Sun today, Hezbollah has fired over 8,000 missiles at Israel in the last less than 12 months, in the last 11 months or so. Now, Israel, as Mike Kelly, the former Labor minister, argued in our paper today, has every right to retaliate militarily. Now, blowing up pages which were only issued to Hezbollah operatives and commanders, and recall that Hezbollah is a designated terrorist organisation under Australian law, under United States law, under the law of most European countries. Blowing those pages up is the most precisely targeted retaliation Israel could possibly do. So for the Albanese government to criticise this is just dismal and wretched and pathetic. Now, I think the Biden administration is much, much better because it is providing massive material support to Israel. And one reason Iran is being very cautious at the moment is because of American naval assets in the region. And, if there is an all-out war, America will be supporting Israel, there's no doubt, and that has a huge effect. I'm ashamed of our government. Everything it's said about this dispute has been wretched and vacuous and small p political and just shaming for Australia to adopt the fatuous positions that it has adopted.
I couldn't believe Penny Wong, the foreign minister, saying after Hezbollah has such a massive blow struck against this leadership with his pages, we don't like to see, the war escalate and war and this, and we don't like killing. I mean, seriously, Israel is at war with terrorists, for heaven's sake. But meanwhile, Greg, I've got to show you this because I can't believe what I'm hearing. I actually can, unfortunately. Back in the US, Vice President Kamala Harris, she got the most gentle interview from Oprah Winfrey, a real supporter. But even Oprah could not stop Harris from showing that as a presidential candidate, she is totally vacuous, with no idea about what she'd do if she won the election against Donald Trump in November. Settle back for just a minute. Have a listen to this.
We really would love to know what your plan is to help lower the cost of living.
Yeah, first of all, thank you both for being here. And yours is a story I hear around the country as I travel. And in terms of both rightly having the right to have aspirations and dreams and ambitions for your family and working hard.
What would be specific steps to strengthening the border?
So it's a wonderful and important question. You know, my background was as a prosecutor, and I was also the elected Attorney General for 2 terms of a border state. So this is not a theoretical issue for me. This is something I've actually worked on. Okay. I have prosecuted transnational criminal organizations for the trafficking of guns, drugs, and human beings. I take very seriously the importance of having a secure border and ensuring the safety of the American people.
Greg, she never did give any specifics of what she'd do. It was blather and feel good all the way through. Warm fuzzies, no policies. Your conclusion?
Well, Andrew, you know, I really hate to sound political about this, but it's as if she's been to the Albanese government school of never, ever answering a question and always blathering about process. And, I mean, she's not in sharp mental decline in the way Biden is, but Biden picked her because she was so mediocre and hopeless that she would never be a threat to him as vice president. She is amply demonstrating her mediocrity and hopelessness. And honestly, if Trump can't beat her, that's a terrible comment on Trump. But what a choice! I mean, she's not suffering from senile dementia, but that's about the most positive thing you can say for her. I mean, she just refuses to answer any straight question and seems incapable of speaking in normal, straightforward English sentences. It's a very depressing.
Well, I got to pick you up on something there, Greg. You said she's not suffering from senile dementia. I have to say, how could you even tell? But anyway, thank you so much for your time, Greg Sheridan.